it's easy to say that you're a Christian, but you have to understand why you are a Christian. Only Israelites can be Christians.
That's right.
Only. To have this mindset that everyone is a Christian is scripturally wrong, and it's out of context. So we're going to be doing a teaching to put a lot of those things right. And then there are some other issues that people have emailed, which hopefully today I'll be able to touch those things. And for some of you here, you've been taught it before, but it will be a refresher. To the Most High be the glory. Now we're going to look at a video, which is the Africans apologize for slavery. It's something that's been circulating at this point on the internet. Let us go, sir.
We are very privileged to be with you, particularly our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean.
Now, if you could just pause it there for me, officer. Now, you'll notice he mentions from the Caribbean, because this was an association out in the West Indies that came together to get some kind of not settlement, but some kind of appeasement for what has taken place, because the Caribbeans, the West Indians so-called, they know that the Africans sold them out, but in their mind they believe that it was their own brethren who sold them out, not understanding that those who sold them out were not them, not their people, but another group of people which are in Africa. So let's go forward.
And the diaspora. And the people from all over Africa, our brothers and sisters from all over Africa. I wish at this point to particularly to apologize deeply on behalf of the chiefs and people of Gold Coast and Ghana for the atrocities, the cruelty, the inhuman treatment that were committed 400 years ago by my ancestors during the Atlantic slave trade.
That's powerful.
Where over 400 years ago, millions of our brothers and sisters were captured, sold and transported under inhumane and cruel circumstances through Elmina Castle across to the Caribbeans and to the New World. On behalf of the chiefs and people of Ghana, I do render unqualified apology, deep from the bottom of our hearts, deep from our bottom of our hearts. But one thing that I want you to be aware of, it was not without resistance. Some of our chiefs did fought and resisted. Some of our people did fought and resisted.
All right, any questions from anyone before we go forward? Any thoughts? Has anyone seen that video before?
No. I think it's commendable that he came forward to say that, because he could have not said anything.
Right. Anyone else? Officer, you have thought? Anyone?
Be glory to God. It's His will that we see those signs.
It's very powerful. As this truth comes to light more and more, we're hearing and realizing statement before we watched all of it that it wasn't our brethren who sold us. It was another group that sold us, that caught us and sold us.
Yeah.
And he made the statement at the end of his that it was not without resistance.
It was not without resistance, yes.
And some of the chiefs did fight. And when I first heard that, I said, well, if some of the chiefs fought, they probably were of our people.
Right.
That would fight.
Right. The leaders that fought against that were certainly of us. But we have to also remember that, so go to Isaiah chapter 11 and 11. Go ahead and read.
Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people.
To do what?
To recover the remnant of his people.
So the scripture tells us that the Most High shall set his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people. Now, before I go any further, why does it say a second time when Israel has been in captivity several times? Let me just see if anyone's woken up this morning. Why does it say a second time? It says a second time here, and it said it's correct. But why does it say a second time when you all know that over a dispensational period there has been 7 major captivities of Israel by superpowers, from the Egyptians to the Babylonians to the Persians, it's the Greeks, etc., etc., etc. So why does he say a second time? All right, just before you do, let's see if any of these brothers.
Is it the similarity between, because we're now in Egypt, and when the first time he did it, he brought all of us out, kind of with his will doing. The other dispensations we've been in, it's kind of like we've come out of them, but we went right back in. It wasn't a mass bringing out and a show before such a great Pharaoh like this next one will be when he does it a second time.
All right. I'll come back to that in a moment. Go ahead. Huh?
Same thing that Sharad said, but also I believe when he brought us out of Egypt, he himself was there by the cloud by day and cloud by night. The other captivities we were in, he sent a prophet or a man or something. I know he led us all out. But this time he's coming to bring us out again himself.
All right. So you say that he's coming this time to do it by way of the other times you're saying that a prophet was sent, but this time it's going to be him who's going to be the hand in this. All right. You had a question, ma'am?
And to add to that, I was just going to say that he brought them out of the land of their bondage he was taking them to the land of their promise.
All right, so you're talking about out of the land of their bondage,
The intent was
their bondage to a land of promise. Okay. All right, so repeat what you just said, if you can, as close as you can, as close as you can.
I just said the similarities between Egypt and where we are now are the same. That's
Right.
why he calls it in Revelation 11, he calls this place spiritual Egypt.
That was what I wanted. The fact that the similarities of where we are now is the same Egypt as the Egypt that we were in before. Now, all of what you said, nothing you all said was wrong. You all were right. Because, and who said that he did it? You said it. I thought it was you back there. Okay. Yes. So this is why now he says he's going to read it again. So read the first clause.
Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again.
There it is. He will set his hand again. Before you arrived, whoever said he sent his prophets, yes, that's correct. He did that to bring us out of different captivities. He used his men of that was assigned to go and do that. But with this, he's going to do it himself as he did it in Egypt. So he says his hand, and then continue, please.
Again the second time, to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
Right. So you see now, this is what it's actually speaking about. And read verse 12, what's you there?
Verse 12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel.
You will assemble all of the outcasts of Israel. Go on.
And gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
From and the reason why it puts emphasis on Judah here, because Judah were the ones that were dispersed from West Africa. That's why when you saw that that clip in there, that newsreel, Judah was the one. This was not speaking about the 10 tribes at this point. The 10 tribes had already been scattered. This is now speaking primarily about Judah. That's why it says, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. As pursuant to Revelation chapter 7, I think it is. 7 and verse 1, did somebody say? All right. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 7 and verse 1. And after those things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
Right, okay. Now, all right. Let's just, I'm looking for where it speaks about the stars that fell, that was the scripture that I wanted. Oh yes, that's in Revelation chapter 12. So 7 was perfectly fine. Now let's go to Revelation chapter 12 and let's read verse 4.
Revelation chapter 12 and verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and this cast them to the earth.
All right, so this that is speaking about, the third part, is speaking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right? So that's Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They were the ones now that was part of the diaspora. Okay. All right. Any questions before we move forward? All right. That was just a cover for some of the questions that we had received through email. Let's go further now into the lesson. Brethren, get right. Leviticus chapter 19, we're going to begin. Leviticus chapter 19, we're going to begin, and we'll begin at verse 17, if you please.
Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor.
All right, let's slow that down just a bit. Thou shalt not do what?
Hate thy brother in thine heart.
So it is instructing us that hatred is a commodity that an Israelite brother or sister cannot have. Because what we're reading here comes under what I've heard from a teacher long gone. Whether it's actually that or not, I don't know. But he coined the phrase, the law of brethren. The law of brethren. And so it says here, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Mustn't hold that hate in your spirit. Read again, read on, sir.
Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor.
And we cannot rebuke our neighbor. Here is the problem that many are associating this to. They're saying that your neighbor is the person you live next door to. The joke is that people are quick to forgive their next door neighbor, but the joke is your own brethren, who is Israel. What's up with that? Your neighbor, the truth is, who cares in terms of your next door neighbor, who you live next door? Who cares? Because that's only a temporary occupance. Because guess what? Your neighbor next door to you, that your home or where you live or your apartment, those are individuals that are in transit over a period of time. 10 years, 5 years from now, they could be gone. And your neighbor is not necessarily your friend. The ones you live next door to, because you could live next door to some inscrutable individuals. I know that to happen to be for a fact. But here it's speaking about your neighbor being Israel, your brethren. That's your neighbor. Not the person living next door to your house. Not the person in the cubicle next door to you at your workplace. Your neighbor is your brethren. Israel is your brethren. Israel is your neighbor. Why? Because we have Judites, we have Benjamites, we have Levites. Those are your brethren. Those are your neighbors. Read on, sir.
Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him.
So it says you suffer sin if you do. Is that my imagination? You suffer sin if you do. Read on, sir.
Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of
So we cannot do what?
Nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people.
No grudges against the children of our people. No grudges. Read on.
But thou shalt love thy neighbor.
Love our neighbor. Love our neighbor. Read.
As thyself.
As ourself. That's what the book is telling us. No grudges, no envy, no stress, but love our neighbor. Who is our neighbor? Our brethren within the 12 tribes of Israel. Let's go.
I am the Lord.
I am the Lord. So whenever we read the scripture and a statement like that ends a verse, it is like putting a seal upon it. And remember, I'm sure you're familiar with where the signet ring comes from. The signet ring was something that came from among our people, and guess which race took it and made it a big thing. Because if you were to have the house of Judah, or if you was the house of Benjamin, or if you was the house of Levi, what would happen? You would have a ring representative of your father. So that means as the son, you can actually, your authority is that you could stamp anything with your ring. Likewise, Joseph, who was the Viscount of Egypt, he was the second in command to Pharaoh. And therefore, he was the Viscount, and he had a ring that gave him authority. That means everyone had to be subject to his will. Likewise now, when it ends the scripture, it's like saying he has stamped it. In other words, you can't go above this. Read the next verse for me, sir. 19.
Ye shall keep my statutes.
Keep his statutes. In fact, let's put that up on the board, if you please, officer, because I want to make sure that we are completely aware of what the word statue means. We have to go to, do you have the Blue Letter Bible on yours? Excellent. All right.
It's not, yes. unless you type in the verse.
Okay, so it won't go?
I'll get it right quick.
All right. Okay.
The word statutes, which one?
There it is, Lexi.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
It says, shukah,
Mhm.
something prescribed, an enactment, statute.
Shukat. Okay. It's an administrative term. All right. Now let's. So it's something that has been prescribed, right? An enactment, a statute. So everything we do, we are enacting it, making it an appointment, making it a custom, making it a due, making it a fixed order, making it a fixed pattern, making it an ordinance, etc., etc., etc. See that? So it says, back to the scripture, you shall keep my statutes, you shall enact it, you shall appoint it, it shall be a fixed order, don't change it. Then it says, read, thou shalt what?
Thou shalt not let thy cattle.
All right, I'm sorry. It's only the first part of that I wanted. Thank you very much. Go to Ephesians chapter 4 and 26. And by the way, the reasons, what you just read in Leviticus chapter 19, the first clause of verse 19 was not meant to be in verse 19. It was meant to finish off verse 18. By the way, for those of you that are grammatical students. I am the Lord. You shall keep my statutes. You see how it would end? And then you go into thou shalt not let the cattle, because that's a completely different subject matter. Exactly. All right, so just for those of you that are grammatical students. All right, let's go to Ephesians chapter 4 and 26, please. In fact, let's begin at 23 to get more clarity. Go ahead, sir.
Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 23. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind.
And be what?
And be renewed in the spirit of your mind.
Renewed in the spirit of your mind. Because your mind has to be continually renewed. So please don't think today because your mind is anew, this is who you are. My mind has been renewing over this for the last 25, 30 years. Why? Because here's the thing. What I knew then, I know better and more now. Because I'm in a constant placement of renewal. So it says, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Read, sir.
And that ye put on the new man.
Put on what?
The new man.
A new man. Because each time your mind is renewed, you become a new person. Because you're thinking different.
That's right.
Read.
Which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness.
See? He's now creating you. This goes back to the scripture that speaks about how he is the potter and we are the clay. He's molding you, shaping you, making you into the instrument and the vessel that he wants to abide with eternally. But right now you're not that. One scripture says that we are a noble people. Imagine, we're noble, we don't even know it. Read on, sir.
Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every
Putting away what?
Putting away lying.
We have to stop the lying. Read.
Speak every man truth with his neighbor.
See? When we're speaking to our brethren of the tribes, we must speak truth. We must do it. Because it is how, this is why Please get me, and please hear my passion when I say this. This is how we are able to trust one another.
That's right.
I can turn around and say, listen, whatever you're saying about him, it is not true. I'll put my life on it. Now, that's a big deal for you to put your life on someone to say, this person won't do it. But because we don't lie to one another, because we speak truth with one another, because we're being renewed by the Spirit, therefore, I can say that this brother, this sister would never do that. Therefore, guess what? It means then that we could stake our life. I'll stake my life on it. But you can't do that now. Read on, sir.
Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another.
One of another. Continue, sir.
Be ye angry, and sin not.
You can get angry. I get angry. My wife's sitting back there. She can tell you I get angry. But I'm better in my anger today than what I was back in the past. Before, I was animated. Confession is good for the soul. I was animated. Don't look at me wrong. What are you looking at?
That's right.
I'm trying to be real. That's how I was. Because it was a defense mechanism. But as I've grown older and wiser, I put away youthful things. I don't get upset easy as I once did. I'm not angry like I once did. I now keep very quiet. So now I'm the reverse. So when I get very quiet, you know. So then when we read on, it says, read.
Let not the sun go down.
Don't let the sun go down. Read it, my brother.
Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
Upon your wrath. And again, my wife and I, we used to have some deep tete-a-tete, and I'm being transparent to kind of help some folk out. I wouldn't let her go to sleep. We ain't sleeping. We fixing this. There's my sweetheart back there. We fixing it.
That's right.
Oh, I need to go to sleep. Leave me. I want to sleep. You're not sleeping. I'm going to make you some tea, cocoa, whatever it is, but we're going to fix this thing now.
Oh, praise.
Elizabeth looking at me like, what? That's about you? Yes. And so, but one thing that I knew, that when we went to sleep eventually, because I don't believe in, oh, I'm going to sleep in that room. I'm going to sleep on the couch. I'm not breaking my back on no couch when I have a good bed in that room. I'm not going to do it. And there is no pillar. They're going to put a pillar there. What? Take that thing and fling it across the room. We sleeping together, and if I end up getting up close to you, you better stay where you are.
Oh, praise. That's right.
That's right.
So she there, she know I'm right. So don't let the sun go down upon your wrath. I don't let that happen. And by the way, I do that with my children also. They're grown now. And here's the thing. However, but I've learned wisdom. If I'm that angry that I know that I may say something that I'm not supposed to say, I leave it until the next day, because let cooler heads prevail. So wisdom becomes the principal thing. But in all thy getting, get understanding. That's what the word says. Read on, sir.
Neither give place to the devil.
Now, if you don't deal with the matter, the devil will get into it. Because there's a saying, the devil's in the detail. He is. And if you don't think so, it was the Most High who made him that way. Because remember, as we learned on Thursday, the devil is still a son of God. And for those of you that didn't listen to that lesson, hold this, run to Job chapter 1 and 6.
That's right.
Let's read.
Job chapter 1 and verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them.
See, Satan is also a son of God. And for those who say, no, because it said, and Satan came. No, and means to introduce you to one of the individuals who's the highlight of this particular story. Jump to chapter 2 and verse 1.
Job chapter 2 and verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord.
See that? To present himself before his maker. So don't get it twisted that Satan, oh, he's a devil, he's a power unto himself. No, he's not no power. He still works for the Most High God, our Yahweh. Right, let's go back to Ephesians. Let's read let's jump to 29.
Verse 20. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 29. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth.
So corrupt communication must never come out of our mouth, let alone cross the threshold of our lips. You must be careful with that mess. Don't let it come out. Because once it's out, it cannot be retrieved. I think it was Brother Johnny who said, I don't know if it was he or so, but I heard last night, you cannot unring a bell.
There you go. Listen.
Once that bell is rung, it's out there. Can't unring it. Read on.
But that which is good to be the use of edifying.
Listen, so if you're going to say anything, say something that's going to edify. What is to edify? To build up, to strengthen. And we should always be in a mode of edifying one another. Sometimes it looks like we find it so hard to say, hey sis, oh, you're looking wonderful today. Oh, I love the way you do that. Oh, bro. And we do, by the way, we do this when we're out of camp. One of the brothers have just finished talking to somebody. We say, good job, officer. Good job. Because we're meant to be edifying one another, building one another up, giving some courage juice that makes the person feel that, yes, I can handle the next one. Read, sir.
That it may minister grace unto the hearer.
There it is. Key word. Grace to the hearer. All right, from here, let's quickly go, if you please, to Ephesians chapter 1. Ephesians chapter 1. Let's begin, if you please, at verse 1. We want to deal with the unity of the Spirit. We like to use that. There's got to be unity of the Spirit. Yeah, all right, let's see what you know about unity of the Spirit. Ephesians chapter 1. Let's begin. Oh, sorry. Did I say Ephesians chapter 1? That was my error, sir. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1.
Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 1. I therefore.
I what?
I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you.
All right, so I therefore, a prisoner of the Lord. Why does it use the expression prisoner? Because it means you're locked in. And if you're locked in, and you're a prisoner, you don't have the key. And if I'm a prisoner, therefore, I can't let myself out of this. The only way that I leave the Most High, I have to break out of the jail. And then if I break out of the jail, I become a fugitive from righteousness. So he makes it very clear when he writes it. He said, I therefore, a prisoner of Yahweh. Read, sir.
Beseech you.
I beg you. Go ahead.
That ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called.
What is a vocation? Let's pull that up for me, please. Vocation. Because there are a couple of different meanings. One of the literal meanings of vocation is calling, but let's see how many other expressions we have.
It says vocation, a noun, a strong feeling of suitability for a particular career or occupation.
So it is a strong compulsion, that something that you feel you can do and you can do good. And I'm sure you've all had that epiphany at one point in your life where you feel, oh, I can do that. Because you just know that you have the wherewithal. Continue, please.
Synonyms: calling, life's work.
There it is. There's a word. That's what I wanted. Calling. So when we read about this, read about that word, vocation, according to the scriptures, is dealing with the word calling. Because you did not call yourself. He called you. Now, why would he call me and I still have a whole lot of baggage? I'm still got this lust for women. I've still got this urge to want to smoke. I still have a propensity towards drugs. Why would he call? The reasons why he calls you and you're still messed up in a whole lot of that nonsense is because when he gets through with you, the victory of you being a whole person that no one can turn around and say you used to, is because he made you over, not you yourself. Read on, sir.
Verse 2. With all lowliness and meekness.
So all lowliness means we have to humble ourselves. Humble ourselves. Lowliness, meekness. It simply means to be of gentleness and forbearing. Bearing one another. We know that sometimes folk get on your nerves, but bearing one another's. We know that some people do something we don't like, but bearing one another's. Read, sir.
With long suffering.
Long suffering. The word long suffering is the reverse, to suffer long. There's a Hebrew word, I don't remember it right now. It means to suffer long. And that, by the way, is a testament to the love that you have for your brethren, for your neighbor, to suffer long with them. Even though you know that there's some proclivities that not up your street. Read, sir.
Forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace.
That's
in the bond of peace.
Endeavoring. Let's find the word endeavoring, please. Thank you. Because again, we are in the business of words. And therefore, words is powerful because one word can mean a whole lot. So the word endeavor.
Endeavor, verb. Gerund or present participle endeavoring, trying hard to do or achieve something.
Right. So you are giving it your best shot. Trying extremely hard. It will even put you in a position where you are even striving or struggling. I'm finding it hard, but I'm holding on as best as I can. This is challenging. You see, all these qualities, incidentally, you know why it's so important to get it? Because if we really got this straight in the beginning, when now, let's say two people come together to marry, you already know the fixments, the things that you have to do to suffer long, to stay together, to strive, to go to labor, to toil. All those things are things that help you stay in the relationship because you were taught it before you came together. So as neighbors, as your brethren, I've learned these things. So I deal with it. I don't let your problems become something that poisons me. Read that verse one more time for me, please, sir.
Verse 3, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace.
So I'm struggling, I'm fighting, I'm moving forward to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond. In other words, the grip, the hold, the adhesive of the Spirit, because that's why we use the word bond, something that can't be moved. The bond of the Spirit in the bond of peace, so that peace will always abide. Read for me, please.
Verse 4, there is one body.
There is what?
There is one body.
There is one body. One body means that if I'm in one body, this is why the truth is, and I'm using my wife as an example, I can't hit my wife. I can't hit her. Because if I hit her, that's like me hitting myself. Can't do it. But we have some dumb people in the world that say it's all right for a woman to hit a man, but a man shouldn't hit a woman. Shut your mouth. You don't hit anybody. You keep your hands by your side and you back off. And the reason why we have to get that point out there, because people think, because the world has said it, it's good even in the church. No, it isn't. Because the church's laws and reason are different from the world's. And that's why you have in marriages, the woman can slap the husband, and I've seen that too. And the husband stands there like some jelly bean, going, all right dear, you mad? First of all, the hand comes up, I'm blocking it. And when I block it, you're going to hurt your hand. Because we're not meant to do that. We don't lift hands to each other. Oh, you're getting silent in here. Or you're getting more silent as we go along. Because when we look at this, it tells us that we're one body. One body means we feel each other's pain. You know, in our community we have a thing we say, brother, I feel your pain. Really? It says one body, and go ahead, sir, hit that next statement for me.
And one spirit.
And one spirit. So one body, one spirit. That means that we're one in body, we feel, we're sensitive to it. One in spirit, meaning we are abiding in the law of the Lord together. What I do, you do. You don't do, I do. What I do, you do. Read, sir.
Even as you are called.
Even as you are called. In other words, there's that word vocation again. You are called to this. We are called. Many are called, but few are chosen. We'll open that up a bit later if time allows. Read, sir.
Even as ye are called in one hope of your calling.
One hope of your calling. What is hope? Hope, by the way, is an action word. It's not a word that's used, oh, I'm just hoping I'm going to get that promotion. I'm just hoping. No. Hope means that if you're hoping for it, you then have got to put action so to make the hope come true. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It's the action word. You've got to do some things to make that faith work. Faith without works is death. It's so hard to understand that. Yet we have some people when we're at a camp, I know the whole Bible. No, you don't. You've read it, but you don't know it. Let's read, sir.
Verse 5. One Lord.
One what?
One Lord.
One Lord means one owner. In other words, I'm not involved in this God, that God, Shintoism and Buddhism and all that. One Lord, one owner, one Adawa, the Hebrew word for Lord. Read.
One faith.
One Lord, one faith. I only have one faith because my faith is built on nothing less. Because my faith is in Him, because He has given me a foundation, a source to hold my faith to that keeps me straight. And my faith is in the law of the Lord is perfect. Doing what? Converting the soul, making wise the simple. Read, sir.
One baptism.
One baptism. One washing of the word. Read.
One God and Father of all.
One God. One God. One Yahweh. And He is the one Father, Abba, of all. He is the one Abba Yah of all. There is none beside Him. There is none above Him. Read.
Who is above all.
Read.
And through all.
Read.
And in you all.
And is in us all. Who's the all? Israel. Read.
But unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure. Now
that word grace is, we've taken that, we've messed it up, we've molded, shaped it, made it into something we want it to be. And unfortunately, that's what Christianity has done. Read, sir.
is given grace according to the measure of the gift of the Mashiach.
The gift of the Mashiach. Because we all have received a measure of everything that our Father has bestowed to us. Read on.
Wherefore he said, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts.
And gave what?
And gave gifts.
Gave knowledge. The gift here is giving knowledge to who?
Unto men.
Unto men. Not every man. But people think, well, the Most High has given me a gift. No, no, no. Who are you? No, didn't give you. He gave gifts to his people, pursuant to Psalms 147, 19 through to 20. That's what it's pursuant to. From here, go with me now, if you please, to, let's go to Matthew chapter 18. Matthew 18. Let's begin, if you please, at verse 15.
Matthew chapter 18 and verse 15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee,
read.
Go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone.
If I have a problem with my brethren, it says I have to go and tell him his fault between who?
Between thee and him alone.
Him alone. What in those cowboy movies? What does it call it when all those people come up to the jailhouse and they're coming to try and break somebody up? What do they call them again? Posse. No, posse is when you get on a horse and you ride out. Even I know that by American stories. What is the one that they, when they're at the jail?
Mob?
Say?
Mob?
Yeah, it's a mob. But is that the term? Anyway, that's as good as. But it's telling us that they normally come to, because they want to lynch. Lynch, that was what I think I wanted. Read that again from the top for me, please, sir.
Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone.
Between you and him alone. You don't bring a lynch mob with you. Because the whole purpose is not to do your brethren any harm.
Right.
There's no harm meant to be done here. The brother, just what the officer just read, where we're meant to do this in the bond of peace.
Right.
Read on, sir.
If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother.
See, and if he hears, we have won his soul. Read on.
But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established.
See, because the word has to be established. It has to be shown that we didn't break any law. We did everything according to the book. Everything was right. Everything was decent and in order. And that way, no one can turn around later and be pointing fingers. The wonderful thing about this book, ladies and gentlemen, no wonder the world wants it, because they recognize if civilization was to crash, the only one book to bring people back into order is this.
That's right.
And it doesn't belong to them. Read, sir.
Verse 17. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church.
Tell it unto the church. Now we have to make it open, because you're just too silly. That's why the scripture uses the word silly. I didn't even know that it was in the scriptures. It says silly women. You must be silly now and then cause yourself to be put in a corner. And here's the corner. Read on.
But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen, man, and a publican.
And as a publican, in fact, let's read now 18.
Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven.
So when we bind something, when we are in, and the word bind means we are in agreement. When we are in agreement. Go on, sir.
And whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven.
Read.
Again I
By
say,
the way, the word loose meaning to take authority. Continue.
Again I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven.
Read on, sir.
For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them.
Sidebar, 1 Corinthians chapter 14. 14 and 29. Yes, that's it. Go ahead, sir.
1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 29. Let the prophet speak 2 or 3, and let the other judge.
There it is. That's your precept for it. So if anyone has a challenge with it, that's where it comes from. All right. Now, let's go, if you please, to the book of Amos, chapter 5 and 15. Amos chapter 5 and 15. Begin reading, sir.
Amos chapter 5 and verse 15. Hate the evil.
Do what?
Hate the evil.
Hate the evil. Go ahead, sir.
And love the good.
And love the good.
And establish judgment in the gate.
And establish what, sir?
Judgment in the gate.
Judgment in the gate. Now, here's the thing with that, ladies and gentlemen. The reason why we have a little bit of a problem with it. Because this verse has been misused. Read from the top just one more time. I just want to bring out a point.
Hate the evil.
Hate the evil.
And love the good.
And love the good. Now, this is what the Christian church has said. Hate the evil, but love the person. No. No. Because the evil is in the person. And they are one and the same. But it's given you a point to understand here. Hate the evil, but love the good. In other words, we're looking to make a change in the person for good. If you are acting completely off, and I mean you're breaking all the laws, statutes, and commandments, and you've gone off, and you are showing all of the signs that you don't want anyone to tell you anything. Because I'll go back to scripture you just read this morning. Hold this and go to Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah chapter 6. And where it says, and he deafened their ears, and verse 10.
Isaiah chapter 6 and verse 10. Make the heart of this people fat.
Make what?
The heart of this people fat.
Read.
And make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed.
So the Most High can block you from hearing what he wants you to hear. He can stop you from receiving this word, because it's not for everyone. And that's why some people, and can I say something that's going to be very hard for some of you to swallow? May I? I'm waiting for your permission.
Yes, sir.
Do you know that there are some people among us that if they're effeminate, you know it's the Most High who made them that way? There are some people who are among us, like men, who are effeminate, or likewise women who are very masculine. It's the Most High who made them that way, you know.
That's right.
Now, the reason why that people struggle with that, because all the time we were told it's the devil who made them that way. Yeah, well, that's the left hand of the Most High. That's those who he chooses to move among them to cause that to happen. But it's his will for that to happen. Now, one would say, well, why would he do that to his people? Because some of our people are just wicked. And he bounds them in the state of their wickedness. The Bible says, and please quote me, or correct me if I'm wrong, it says, and he put them over to, and I'm just ad-libbing, he put them over to their reprobate mind. Who knows that scripture? And he put them over to their reprobate mind, meaning that they were acting reprobate, so he made them more reprobate. All right, if you don't have it, it doesn't matter. I just have to get a supercomputer and just boom, 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 and it comes up. All right, so let's go back to where it was in Amos. And let's read 15 again. You found it? Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 1.
That's it. I knew it was Romans, but I wasn't sure if it was 1. Go ahead, sir.
And even as they did not like to retain God,
that's it. That's the one. Go ahead, sir.
In their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient.
Read it one more time for me.
Yes, sir.
Thompson.
Verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain.
And even as they did not like to do what?
Retain God in their knowledge.
Retain God in their knowledge. Read.
God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient.
To do those things that were not convenient. Retain God in their knowledge.
Yeah,
giving them.
It's above and kind of below about them turning to their own lust. And
right.
Woman, yeah.
In fact, go ahead and explain whilst I'm just making this notation here. What you just said. What you just said.
Well, no, I was saying the verses above and below kind of explain what you were saying about them being.
Read it from the top and compare it through.
Let's see. I'll start with verse 25. It says, "Who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator."
There it is. Go ahead.
"Who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections."
See, He did it. God did it. You see, and you know, we struggle with that because God would do that, not to my Jimmy, not to my Miriam. Yes, He will. Continue, sir.
"For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature."
And that, by the way, ties with 1 Timothy, Timothy chapter 5. But we won't go there. Go ahead.
"And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust."
Read. Glory.
"Toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly."
Unseemly. Read.
"And receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet."
Now go ahead and read to 28 now. Now it'll tie it in, make sense.
"And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate
mind.
To do those things which are not convenient."
Now, for those of you that struggle with what is a reprobate? Debased, lower, degenerate. That's why there's one scripture we read it just the other. I think it might have been last night. That Israel became a degenerate people. They were a noble people, but He made them become degenerate. That's a horrible thing for someone to say about you, by the way. Right, let's go back to where we were. Where were we?
Amos 5 and 14.
All right, let's read.
Amos chapter 5 and verse 14. "Seek good and not evil, that ye may live. And so the Lord, the God of hosts, shall be with you as ye have spoken."
As ye have spoken. Let's go to Lamentation chapter 10 and 2. Now, and this is how we get worse. This is how we wax worse. Sorry, sir?
Lamentations.
Did I say Lamentations? Go to Jeremiah chapter 10 and 2. All right. Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 2. Whenever you're ready.
Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2. "Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen."
See that? Learn not the way of the heathen. What heathen means the nations, the other people. Don't learn their ways. That's what takes us further into our degeneracy. Go ahead, sir.
"And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them."
The heathen are dismayed at them. Let's go to Sirach, known as the Ecclesiasticus. Sirach, chapter 28. We were tearing that up last night, so let's go to Sirach. Let's see if we can pull some more meat out of that. Sirach 28. And let's begin, if you please, at verse 1.
Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 28 and verse 1. He that reverenteth shall find vengeance from the Lord, and he will surely keep his sins in remembrance.
Read it one more time.
He that revenanteth shall find vengeance from the Lord, and he will surely keep his sins in remembrance.
So, the scripture lets us know that he that reverence shall be vengeance for the Lord. He's going to use your actions. Read on.
Forgive thy neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto thee.
So if your neighbor has hurt you, forgive them. Because if you're keeping any revengefulness in your vengeance in your spirit, he will use it against you. But anyway, read on.
So shall thy sins also be forgiven when thou prayest.
See? And the only way we get our sins to be removed is because we have forgiven our brethren. You can't, oh, the Lord heard my prayer. No, he didn't. Because if you can't forgive your brethren, how do you think the Lord? And remember, the one thing with our Most High Father, he's not biased. That's why he says, let your yea be yea and your no be no. Read on, sir.
Forgive thy neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto thee, so shall thy sins also be forgiven when thou prayest. One man beareth hatred against another, and doth he seek pardon from the Lord? He showeth no mercy to a man which is like himself, and doth he ask forgiveness of his own sins?
See that? It's very self-explanatory, isn't it? And the church said,
Amen.
Amen. Respond, please, ladies and gentlemen. I want people online to know that I'm speaking to some people as opposed to them thinking I'm sitting here talking to myself. All right, let's go from here to Deuteronomy chapter 13 and 6. Deuteronomy 13 and 6, please. Read when you got it.
Deuteronomy chapter 13 and verse 6. If thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thy own soul, entice thee secretly, saying.
Now, the reason why you have to be careful here is letting you know that you can get some people real close to you. And sometimes the thing that causes us to falter is people who are really close to us telling us to do things that you know you shouldn't be doing. That's why it uses the word entice. Because they should have let up ages ago, but okay, come on man, we could do this. Bro, if we do this, everything's going to be good for us for the next blah, blah, blah. Read on, sir.
Let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers.
Read.
Namely of the gods of the people which are round about you.
See, picking up the habits of the nations around you. That's what we're quick to do. That's part of the reason why our Hispanic brothers are quick to go and do the cross sign on themselves. And they do it several times thinking it's going to do nothing. Read on.
Nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from the one end of the earth, even unto the other end of the earth.
Read.
Thou shalt not consent unto him.
Don't consent unto him. Don't take his word. Don't take her word. Leave them. Move yourself away from them. Read.
Nor hearken unto him. Neither shall thine eye pity him. Neither shalt thou spare. Neither shalt thou conceal him.
In other words, don't feel sorry for him. And don't conceal him. In other words, oh no, he didn't mean it. Oh, she didn't mean anything. Yes, they did. They're a devil. But you see, what we do these days, we say, oh no, but she's really good. No, he's a real good guy. No, they're a devil.
That's right.
You're going to call him what it is. No, all right. Let's go read myself.
Verse 9. But thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death.
Now you couldn't even do that here. Because the prisoners would be locked up. Read it again from the top, sir.
But thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people.
Because what they would do, what was traditional, is that they would take a stone and strike him. And then another would come, either with their stone or take the same stone and strike him. Meaning that this person was put down with the same rock. So the punishment was a judgment of one and many. Why? Because everyone was united that this action should never be within our camp. Read on, sir.
And thou shalt stone him with stones, that he die, because he hath sought to thrust thee away from the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage.
From the house of bondage. Read on.
And all Israel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness.
Now stop just for one quick moment. Now you'll notice something here. It said, read the first clause again.
And all Israel shall hear.
Notice, it's telling you that all Israel shall hear. Why is that so important? Tell me.
So, the rest of them will?
Absolutely. Because once you hear what's going on, you'll say, I'm not going to do it. Someone comes to that food, look, just move away from me with that. Because you recognize that same action that happened a few months ago, a few weeks ago, I don't want that happening to me. But you see, that's our problem living in Babylon. Babylon lets you get away with murder and get you can get a vacation with that and get paid as well, and write a book and make a bestseller. Babylon will make you prosper in your infamy. Finish it for me, sir.
And fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this is among you.
As this is among you. All right. All right. So I didn't realize that before. That same house of bondage ties in with that other scripture as well. So, yes, sir. Let's go from here, if you please, to Proverbs chapter 1. Proverbs chapter 1, let's begin at verse 7. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
Is what?
Is the beginning of knowledge.
Is the beginning of knowledge.
But fools despise wisdom and instruction.
But fools what?
Despise wisdom and instruction.
They despise wisdom and instruction. Jump to verse 10.
Verse 10. My son, if sinners entice thee.
Stop. What did it just say?
My son, if sinners entice thee.
If sinners entice thee. If sinners entice thee. Read.
Consent thou not.
Don't consent to it. Let's read on a little bit more. Let's read.
Verse 11. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause.
Now we just read a similar story. Where did we just read it? See, you weren't paying attention. Right. We just read a similar story right there. The two are identical in the respect of being enticed away by a brother. And could be sister too. All right, read on.
Verse 12. Let us swallow them up alive.
Let us do what?
Let us swallow them up alive.
Swallow them up alive, read.
As the grave.
As the grave. Now, underline the word grave because you need to get that right. Alive as the grave. Underline that. It'll be a focal point when you read it in the future. Read on.
And hold as those that go down into the pit.
Into the pit. Now, to understand that, we need a precept for it. Who can give me a good precept for that? All right, because of time, let's go to Let's go to Psalms 28, please, and 1. That's your go-to.
Psalms chapter 28 and verse 1. Unto thee will I cry, O Lord my rock. Be not silent to me, lest if thou be silent to me, I become like them that go down into the pit.
That go down where?
Into the pit.
Into the pit. So when we go back now, what is the pit? I gave you a clue earlier when we read it. The grave. So the grave is the pit. All right, continue to read, officer.
Verse 13. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil.
Fill our houses with spoil. Go.
Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse.
Read.
My son, walk not thou in the way with them.
Walk not thou in the way with them. Read.
Refrain thy foot from their path.
Keep your foot from their path.
For their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood.
Underline the word, for their feet run to evil, and make haste to blood. This is what happened in Chicago. 77 or 75 or whatever the number, let's anyway, 70 plus, were shot. 12 were killed. One of them, a girl, was shot in the face. And she was, what, 12 years old? 12 years old. How does that happen? Now, I admit that there's something a little fishy about that. I admit that. And I admit it because of this reason. With all of the other, we call them bank holidays. What do you call them over here? Huh? Just holidays, that we call them?
Yes.
Give me a hand here, come on.
What was the term?
We call them bank holidays.
Official.
But what do you call it? What do you call the 4th of July?
Just a holiday.
Just a holiday. Okay. I'm trying to make a big deal of it. Just a holiday.
That one you can say is supposed to be a national holiday.
So it's a national holiday, all right. Why did it not happen with all the others? Why this one? Because what they had, so in fact, go online, find prosthetic mask and gloves. Black man's prosthetic mask and gloves or something like that. Right. Oh, that's right. The one where it said realistic black man, that one there. Right. Hit that one for me, please. Now, but this is what's going on. That looks like a black man, right?
Like Bing Rames.
Go ahead and play, sir. And by the way, that's a Caucasian man, a so-called white man underneath this. He can take it off, but that looks like a black. In fact, can you go back a little bit, sir? Look at the white hand that's filming it in his glasses. You see it? See that?
Oh, wow.
That's a white man filming his body with a prosthetic black man's mask.
Oh, wow.
And they have them now that the glove, look at it. Now the reason why he's wearing glasses is because they haven't got it quite close to the eyes yet. You can still see a little bit of the white flesh coming through a little bit there, unless you was using makeup. See? All right, thank you, sir. This is part and parcel of what's going on.
Oh, wow.
And it's conjecture, and I've been listening, I've been watching, and I'm following up on this. But some of the things I've heard on the internet, I have to agree with. Could it be this is the Chicago Ku Klux Klan division of the police department putting these things on, going into, or if not the police, whosoever going into the communities of our people and shooting it up. And you know, once our people see somebody shooting, guess what we do? We get the gun, we start shooting back.
Right.
Because when in the history of this nation has there been that type of shooting on a national holiday? And why would it wait until the holiday? Shooting goes on there every day of the week, right? That's mind blowing. Can we look at, is there anything else? Is that one any good there? That SP?
There's a black singer is what it says. That's so cool.
Mission Impossible has just come to life. Now, thank you, sir. Well, we can stop there. I think it's freaking me out. So.
It really is, because the hair, I mean.
Now, this is why, and I think what you have to get into your minds, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we're living in an age where they're making us look worse, because all that a devil has to do is put that on, go out there, do some craziness, get it filmed, and it heightens the profile of us in a negative way.
Right.
You see, and then we have neophytes who want to call and say, "Oh, you teaching too much about history and about stuff." What? These things affect us. And what we have to understand, are we a church? For a church sake, we are a church body, but we are a nation. And the word church only belongs to Israel, by the way. People don't want to buy that. All right, let's get back to this. Let's get back. Let's read where you left off.
Verse 16. For their feet run to evil.
Their feet do what?
Run to evil.
Read.
And make haste to shed blood.
Read.
Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird.
Read.
And they lay wait for their own blood. They work privily for their own lives.
For their own lives. Shh. All right, let's talk a little bit about grace. Let's go to Romans chapter 5 and 18. We just dealt with how we ought to walk in the unity of the Spirit, and make sure that we recognize who our neighbor is. Now let's deal with grace. Let's deal with that subject. Romans chapter 5, let's begin at 18, please.
Romans chapter 5 and verse 18. Therefore, as by the offense of one judgment came upon all men to condemnation, even so, by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life.
Now, explain that, please. You must be able to explain that. Before yourself. And who is it referring to? Who is the focal point of that? Read it one more time for me, officer.
Yes, sir. Verse 18. Therefore, as by the offense of one judgment.
Watch it. Therefore, as by the offense of one judgment, read, sir.
Came upon all men.
Came upon all men. Now, I'm putting emphasis on the words so that you're getting an idea of who it's speaking of. Read, sir.
To condemnation.
To condemnation. All men, one offense, way back then, came upon all men by condemnation. Read.
Even so, by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life.
So the whole thing had to change. It came by one, negatively. It's going to change by one, positively. Who is it speaking of? Adam. 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 Now, verse 19, read.
Verse 19. Whereas by one man's disobedience, many were made sinners.
Right? One man's disobedience, Adam, many were made sinners. This is why you have to understand that the Adam it's speaking of is Yahweh Shai back in that time. That's the big pill that many will find hard to swallow. Not my Jesus, but Adam back then was the Jesus you know today in the scriptures. I know it's hard for you to, and the reason why you're going to struggle with it, and now you're sending me more emails to give me more of a headache, is because you don't understand the scriptures. But let's read it from the top, 19 through. Go ahead, sir.
Verse 19. Whereas by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous.
See? See that? Powerful, isn't it? What he did in the beginning, he had to change in the end to fix so that we all could be made righteous. It's powerful, and I know, and again, if you're not reading this and understanding in the spirit, you will miss it. It will go clean over your head, as it has done many, because we went to Bible seminary. They didn't teach us that there. Well, they can't teach it because they don't have the Spirit. From here, sir, let's jump to verse. In fact, let's go to chapter 6 and 1. Let's just skip over.
Romans chapter 6 and verse 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin, that grace may abound?
There it is. We love to play with that word grace. Well, and as we heard, well, I'm saved by grace, and grace allows me. That's why I can wear what I want, I can do what I want, and I can have my hair the way I want it. That's what we heard. You can't judge me. No, I can't, but the word can. And that's why they don't want us to read the word when we read it. Don't read the word. Tell me what you think. Is that what we've heard time and time again? Tell me what you think. I don't want to hear what the book says. But we are instructed not to tell you what we think, but only to tell you what the book says. And why are you reading it so loud? Because the Bible said we should. Read that verse one more time for me, please, officer.
Romans chapter 6 and verse 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin, that grace may abound? God forbid.
God forbid. All right, before we go any further, yes, read on, sir. Read on. God forbid.
God forbid. How shall we, that are dead to sin?
That are dead to sin. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Let's see if I can get a precept to go with that. What does it mean, ladies and gentlemen? It says, God forbid, how shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Go to 1 John chapter 3 and 4. You will know that scripture. Read for me.
1 John chapter 3 and verse 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law.
Transgresseth what?
Also the law.
Read.
For sin is the transgression of the law.
Sin is a transgression of the law. Okay, I'll have to stop there, otherwise I'm going to lose my train of thought.
Help me with this one, Pastor. Galatians 2:19.
Galatians 2:19. Let's go there quick.
Galatians chapter 2 and verse 19. For I, through the law, am dead to the law, that I may live unto God.
Good. Now, what does it mean? In fact, go back and read. Do me a favor. Jump back up. Read verse 16, sir.
Yes, sir. Galatians chapter 2 and verse 16. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law.
By what?
By the works of the law.
Read.
But by the faith of Yahweh HaMashiach, even we have believed in Yahweh HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the faith of the Mashiach, and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified.
No flesh be justified. That's focusing on the old covenant.
Yes.
Jump down now to verse 18.
Verse 18. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor.
That's now the old man. Read it one more time so we don't miss it, please. Read.
For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor.
Make myself a transgressor. And what did we read what we read in 1 John 3 and 4? Just quickly.
Sin is the transgression.
Sin is the transgression of the law. You see? So go back now and read 19 in Galatians chapter 2 and 19.
Galatians chapter 2 and verse 19. For I, through the law, am dead to the law.
I am what?
Dead to the law.
Read.
That I might live unto God.
Unto God. Old covenant. All right. Okay, sir. So, I think that point. Go to Joshua chapter 24 for me, please, and 14. Everybody doing all right?
Yes, sir.
Good, all right. So, let's go.
Joshua chapter 24 and verse 14. Now therefore, fear the Lord.
Fear the Lord.
And serve him in sincerity.
And serve him in sincerity. Continue.
And in truth. And put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood.
So we're going to do what?
Put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood, and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord.
And serve ye the Lord. From there, go to Psalms 32 and 2. Psalms 32. And 2. Let's read.
Psalms chapter 32 and verse 2. Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity.
It does what?
Imputeth not iniquity.
Imputeth not iniquity. All right. What does the word imputeth basically mean? Imputeth. What does it basically mean? All right, yes, let's pull it out. Well, that's good. You read my mind. Something that's not held to your account. But anyway, let's find it. Go ahead.
Impute, verb, says to represent something, especially something undesirable, as being done, caused, or possessed by someone, an attribute.
All right, continue.
Says finance, assign a value to something by inference from the value of the products or process to which it contributes.
Okay, let's jump to this theology.
And theology, ascribe righteousness, guilt, etc. to someone by virtue of a similar quality in another.
All right, so you see, it simply means to not be held charged to a person's account when something is imputeth. Remember, the ETH is at the end of the word, means to continue. So let's go back to Psalms. Let's read that again. Blessed is the man.
Psalms chapter 32 and verse 2. Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no guile.
There is no guile. The word guile means deceit. All right? So from here, let's go to the book of Tobit. Tobit chapter 4 and 14. Page 38. Go ahead.
Tobit in the Apocrypha, chapter 4 and verse 14. Let not the wages of any man which hath wrought for thee tarry with thee, but give him it out of hand. For if thou serve God, he will also repay thee. Be circumspect, my son, in all things thou doest, and be wise in all thy conversation.
Wise in all our conversation. All our actions must be godlike. From here, let's go to Sirach. Sirach chapter 9. We just read, let not the wages of any man which hath wrought for thee tarry. Don't hold back what belongs to someone else. Give it to them. Don't keep money that you know you've set aside to give to someone else or give to a certain thing. Give it to them. Get it out of the way. Be circumspect, my son, in all things thou doest, and be wise in all your conversations. Do that to no man that hateth. And let's leave that. Go ahead and read what you got in Sirach chapter 9 and 15, please.
Sirach chapter 9 and verse 15. Let thy talk be with the wise.
So your conversation has to be with the wise. Go ahead.
And all thy communication in the law of the Most High.
And do what?
And all thy communication in the law of the Most High.
And the law of the Most High. All right. Good. We'll come back to Sirach in just a moment. But let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 6 and 7. Let's tie that up. Because that's pretty clear. Let thy talk be with the wise. In other words, you've got to curve your words. Don't have loose words. As you have a saying over here, loose lips sink ships. And all thy communications in the law of the Most High. So he's speaking as the Most High would speak. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 6 and 7, let's read.
Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently.
Thou shalt do what?
Teach them diligently.
Teach them diligently. Go ahead.
Unto thy children.
Unto thy children.
And shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house. And when thou walkest.
And do what?
And shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house.
Read.
And when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Now, what this is teaching us, and I have to tell you, I'll normally ask you, but because of time, I need to move ahead a little bit. Everything we do when it comes to the law of the Lord and His Word, we do it constantly. When we wake up in the morning, we want to give Him thanks. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai. Thanks. We want to do that. We want to do it. Let's read it again. It says, read it again, sir.
Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children.
Teach it diligently, consistently unto your children. Read.
And shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house.
And talk of them when you sit in your house.
And when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down.
When you liest down. You're keeping the commandments in your mouth at all times. You're teaching your children. When you're walking, you're talking. And that's why some people don't like your company, because when you come around, you're going to talk about the scriptures. And they say, oh, come we not talk about something else?
Yeah.
Telling you. Because it's telling you how you should act right there. That's what verse 7 is all about. When to teach your children. When you have a conversation with your wife, talk, she's not stepped out now, but I like to talk the Bible. I want to talk about some silly nonsense with some woman down the road. I get bored. I sit there and go, all right. Because it doesn't excite me. I feel like my mind's been assaulted. Yeah. But if you want to talk about scripture, then I get a light. I'd be okay. But this is where the disharmony comes, when you're talking about the scriptures and the person you're talking to looks like they're falling asleep. Yeah. Am I boring you? No, go on.
Oh, great.
All right. Let's go, if you please, to Romans chapter 12 and 1, please. Let's deal with commitment. When you got it, read.
Romans chapter 12 and verse 1. I beseech you therefore, brethren.
When it uses the word beseech, the word beseech basically means to beg. That's basically what it means. I'm begging you. In fact, let's just hold that for a quick minute. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 1. Or 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and 1, please. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Begin at 1.
2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 1. Now I, Paul, myself beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of the Mashiach, who in presence am base among you, but being absent am bold toward you. But I beseech you that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence, wherewith I think to be bold against some, which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh.
Read.
For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh.
We don't war after the flesh. Read.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
They're not man-made. Read.
But mighty through Yah to the pulling down of strongholds.
They come from the Most High God when we ask for His assistance. Let's go back to where we was. Romans 12.
Romans chapter 12 and verse 1.
Read.
I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yah, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice.
Now, a living sacrifice is this. Every time you raise up to tell your brother about who he is or she is, you're making yourself a living sacrifice, because you're going to take some abuse. You're going to. And sometimes you then have got to slip into a Paulian or Paulian type mindset where you have to use a little bit of reverse psychology. Because Paul knew how, he knew how to turn people to see the Christ that he saw, the Yahweh, the Mashiach that he saw. He knew how to do that. That's why he said he could become low to win the low, or he could become high to converse with those who are highly estate. He could become all things to all men. But here, when it says that we're going to be a living sacrifice, every time you go out on a camp or you are talking to someone, you're becoming a living sacrifice. It doesn't matter whether we reach anyone that day or not. The fact is that you did it and you're a living sacrifice. Why? Because you could have lost your life on the way to camp. Or when you're going to go meet a sister to go and talk to them about what the Lord has laid in your heart, about who they are. And you know you're going to have warfare. Because they're going to challenge you. They're going to argue with you. But you have to let it happen. Because, read it again, sir, if you please.
I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yah, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice.
A living sacrifice. My body is a living sacrifice. It's a tool that he's using on earth for his bidding. Read on, sir.
Holy.
Holy. Why is it got to be holy? Because you're going to be speaking like as a representative of him. So you've got to be holy. Holy how? Obeying his laws, statutes, and commandments. Read.
Acceptable unto God.
Acceptable unto God, meaning that the sacrifice has no blemish. You can't bring a sacrifice that's blemished and offer it unto a God who prefers, who demands, I was going to say prefer, who demands perfection. Read.
Which is your reasonable service.
Notice he says it's reasonable. Not asking for too much. Because he's not asking you to do it necessarily every day, but he's asking you to do it every time the opportunity arises. Do it. If we were really presenting ourselves as a living sacrifice, we would have to get a huge, gigantic hall for all the people. But we're not. We're not. Now, but don't misread me. We're not going to get everybody. I recognize that. Because he doesn't want everybody. But the only way that you're going to catch a fish is that you have to throw out the bait as often as possible, right?
That's right.
Let's go back and read, sir.
Verse 2, and be not conformed to this world.
And be not shaped. Conformity is to be shaped, molded. Do not become molded to this world. Let's hold that. Go to 1 John chapter 5. 2 and 15. 2 and 15. 1 John chapter 2 and 15.
1 John chapter 2 and verse 15. Love not the world.
Do what?
Love not the world.
Don't love the world. Read.
Neither the things that are in the world.
Neither what?
The things that are in the world.
Neither the things that are in the world. Don't love the things of the world. In other words, why? Because you can't take it with you. And if you do, you're showing your Father which is in heaven that, or you're basically prescribing a thought that what you have for me in the kingdom can't outdo this. Listen, we stand sometimes, we see some fine rides drive by. We say, ooh, that's nice. Yes, that's nice. Blah, 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 blah. But the reasons why all the nice vehicles that drive by doesn't cause us to yearn like, oh, I wish I had one of those. It's because of this. The chariot that the Most High God has in the kingdom for you, really? It's going to blow your mind. And guess what? You want to trade it in each year.
That's right. That's right.
Because what you're going to have, the world, every time the rest of the nations say, oh, here comes one of those people. Stand to attention. Now we have to bow.
Praise.
Can you imagine that? There was once upon a time when certain people would come, we would have to bow and be silent and stand to attention. Or, if we're seated, stand up. But in the kingdom, the nations are going to do that to you. Wow. Let's get back and read this before I get carried away. Let's read verse 2 again, please.
The Romans, right, guys?
Yes, sir. Romans chapter 12 and 2.
Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
By the renewing. Remember what we said earlier on in this teaching. We said your mind must continually be renewed. Remember, your whole body, the body you have today, this month, this year, is not the body you had 15 years ago. Because of those of you who are medical people in here, you would agree with me. Scientifically, from a physiology standpoint, the body sheds all of its skin every single month. So really, if you were to look at it, you have a new body every month. That's why your skin, everything sheds, it falls off. That's why you have to wash your clothes, because your skin is constantly shedding. A new person is coming out all the time. Getting older, but still a newer person than what it was. Here is the point that I want you to understand. The same way that your body goes through that type of renewal, in the kingdom, the difference is your body will never go old. When you step out, when you're looking at yourself, you say, what? That is me. It will never age. It will never change. It will be in a state of continual renewal. Here is saying that our minds must be renewed here. Because we can't have the same mind that we have. Because as we read the scriptures, get deeper into the scriptures, we get better in the scriptures. Come? Let's read on, sir.
That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yah.
And we are proving it. 1 Thessalonians, sir. 4 and 3. Let me quickly double check so I don't send up no wild goose chase. First Thessalonians 4 and 3, yeah.
1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 3. For this is the will of Yah, even your sanctification, that ye should abstain from fornication.
Abstain from fornication, that we may prove what is that good. And read, sir, back to Romans. I'm sorry.
Romans chapter 12 and 2, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yah.
Of Yah. All right. Let's go to 2 Maccabees 7 and 37. I've only got a few more scriptures when I read through. 2 Maccabees chapter 7 and 37. Now, all of the Maccabees brothers, when you study them, when you read the first and second Maccabees, you find all of the Maccabees brothers, they all went through the same thing. They all went through challenges because they were pursuant to do the will of the Most High for their nation. And you see, they were willing to fight and go to war and go to battle for their people. Likewise, we have to do the same. But now we have to do it a little bit differently. We're not literally taking a sword out. We're going with the word now. Read, if you please. 2 Maccabees chapter 7, 37. Thank you.
2 Maccabees chapter 7 and verse 37. But I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the laws of our fathers.
See that? Read it one more time from the top, sir.
But I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the laws of our fathers, beseeching God that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, and that thou by torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is God.
See that? That's powerful. You need to highlight that. If you haven't already, highlight it, make it a script that you go back to reading. Let's go to second. Now let's leave that because of time. Let's go back to Sirach chapter 4 and 28. But I love what he said. He said, I, as my brothers, because remember, all his brothers went through this, offered up my body and life for the laws of our fathers. Are you prepared to do that? And then he goes on to say, beseeching God that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, that thou by torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is our Yahweh.
That's right.
Phew. Blessed be the name of the Most High God. All right. Sirach chapter 4 and 28. Let's read, sir.
Sirach chapter 4 and verse 28. Strive for the truth.
Do what?
Strive for the truth.
Strive for the truth. Read.
Unto death.
Unto what?
Unto death.
So you do this not just because you feel good today. You do it until you pass from this world. Read.
And the Lord shall fight for thee.
And he will do what?
And the Lord shall fight for thee.
He will fight for you. He will do it. In fact, jump back up to verse 24. Just read that real quick.
Verse 24. For by speech wisdom shall be known, and learning by the word of the tongue.
By the word of the tongue. So this is how we know whether a person is acquainted with the word or have understanding of the word or not. All right, from here, let's go to Colossians chapter 3 and 23. Colossians. Chapter 3 and 23.
Colossians chapter 3 and verse 23. And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily, as the Lord, and not unto men.
See, you have to get into a habit. Whatever you are doing, whatever. The late, great Bishop Norman L. Wagner taught me this. He said, don't do it unto me. And the reason why he said it, because you see, we have an action like, if you do something unto man and the man doesn't praise you, you get upset, right? But he said, if you do it, even though he's put the man in charge and he doesn't say anything, you know that the Father, which appointed you to do it, he's the one ultimately who's going to bless you.
That's right.
And that's what I learned. So when I don't get any praise or well done or pat on the back, I learned a long time ago that I don't need to get that from the man, because the Father, which is in heaven, has already assigned for me my blessings. And remember, he just doesn't bless you once for whatever you do. He blesses you many times. So, let's read it one more time. Let's just read it one more time.
Colossians chapter 3 and verse 23. And whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men.
Not unto men. From here, let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 1 and 8. 2 Timothy chapter 1 and 8. Let's read.
2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 8. Be not thou therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord.
Be not what?
Therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord.
Read.
Nor of me his prisoner, but be thou partaker of the afflictions of the gospel according to the power of Yah.
Notice the word prisoners come up again, meaning I'm committed to this. The only way I get out of this is if I break out, and then I become a fugitive of salvation. But I'm a prisoner unto the Father. And this flesh that I'm locked into, I'll do everything that I have to do to fully service the will of God until he upgrades me from this flesh to a greater body that is like his own Son. Read it from the top again.
Be not thou therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of me his prisoner, but be thou partaker of the afflictions of the gospel according to the power of God.
According to the power of God. Let's go to Philippians chapter 2. And we only have one more scripture after this. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 24. Let's read.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 24. But I trust in the Lord that
I do what?
But I trust in the Lord that I also myself shall come shortly.
Read on. In fact, yes, read on. Read on.
Yet I suppose it necessary to send to you Epaphroditus, my brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier, but your messenger, and he that ministered to my wants.
Continue.
For he longed after you all.
He did what?
He longed after you all.
He missed you. Because that should be our nature. When we don't see our brothers or our sisters, we miss them. We miss them and we feel heavy. Read.
And was full of heaviness because that ye had heard that he had been sick. For indeed he was sick.
Now notice this. The brother man here was sick, but still, you'll read it, wanted to do the work of the Most High God. Now, do you think you're going to go through that, and the Most High is going to look at you and see that you're still determined to do the work, you're still determined to spread the gospel about who his people are, and then he sees you in that state and not begin to set up something wonderful for you in the kingdom? Then you don't know God.
That's right.
You say diddly over here, right? Is that good or bad? I'm going to make sure I'm incorrect. Am I good? Oh.
You don't know Jack.
Oh, all right. You don't know Jack. That's what they told me. So I'll just repeat it. All right. Good. Go ahead.
Verse 27. For indeed he was sick nigh unto death, but God had mercy on him.
Did what?
Had mercy on him.
Read.
And not on him only, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow.
Glory! You're going to read that again for me, through my spirit. Read.
For indeed he was sick nigh unto death, but God had mercy on him.
Yes.
And not on him only, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow.
Read.
I sent him therefore the more carefully, that when ye see him again, ye may rejoice, and that I may be the less sorrowful. Receive him therefore in the Lord.
Receive him how?
Therefore in the Lord.
Read.
With all gladness.
With all gladness. That's how we feel about our brethren. You don't have this long face with him. All right. What he want? What she want? No. We receive our brethren with all gladness, with glee, with excitement. Read.
and hold such in reputation.
Read.
Because for the work of the Mashiach he was nigh unto death, not regarding his life, to supply your lack of service toward me.
See that? He was willing even unto death to do the work. And that's why when I see Brother Johnny, I get excited about him. This man had open heart surgery and he's out there with us. The brothers will tell you, officers will tell you. And we see him coming and he looks sometimes, we feel kind of like sorry for him, but the Most High keeps it. And it's like the longer he's with it, it's like he's renewed.
That's right.
Isn't that something? Read verse 30 again one more time for me, please.
Verse 30. Because for the work of the Mashiach,
Or the work of the Mashiach,
he was nigh unto death, not regarding his life, to supply your lack of service toward me.
see, lack of service towards me. Wow.
He's taken on the course of it because other brothers didn't want to do the work.
That's it. That's it. Ah, Father. Let's go to Luke chapter 17. It will be our last. Luke chapter 17. And we'll begin at verse 9.
Luke chapter 17 and verse 9. Doth he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded him? I throw not. So likewise,
Read it again from the top.
doth he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded him? I trow not.
See that? Did you get it, ladies and gentlemen? Doth he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded of him? In other words, should you be thanked for the thing that you've been commanded to do? It's like you have a servant and you say, go and get me a glass of water. Then they come and they're giving you the water and then they're waiting around. Well, what do you want? I thought you can at least say, thank you. Well, you know what you're going to do with that servant. Off with their head. Because a servant's meant to do what has been commanded of them. And then what's the last clause says? It says, I what?
I trow not.
I think not. So let's read verse, where are we now?
Verse 10.
Yes.
So likewise,
And by the way, for those of you that when you see the word throw, you're thinking, am I just saying think not? But no, the word, it actually means think. It actually does mean think. I think not. That's what it means. Read verse 10.
so likewise ye, when ye shall have done all those things which are commanded of you, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do.
See that? Makes perfect sense, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions? Any questions? Can you just quickly go to Job 22 and 3? Just so we can get an idea of the unprofitable. Go ahead and read it.
Job chapter 22 and verse 3. Is it any pleasure to the Almighty that thou art righteous, or is it gain to him that thou makest thy ways perfect?
Good. You're still in Job?
Yes, sir.
Go to 35 and 7.
Job chapter 35 and verse 7. If thou be righteous, what givest thou him? Or what receiveth he of thine hand?
See? Those are all the precepts, by the way. Okay. Any questions from anyone before we dismiss? Remember, the subject matter we're dealing with today is, brother, get right. Get right. Get it right. Come on. Yes, ma'am.
And our brethren once again is who?
I'm sorry?
Our brethren is who?
Our brethren is the 12 tribes. That's our brethren.
So there was a comment on here earlier about Ephesians 4:26. It said, does this apply to the anger of Esau?
Esau, what scripture is that?
Ephesians 4:26.
Ephesians 4:26. Officer, go ahead and read it out if you have.
Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 26. Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
All right. Now, let's understand. It's a good question, really. You must remember, this does not apply to Esau, because you'll find that Paul says this. He says, find me the script that says Hebrew of Hebrews. I can't remember where that is right now. Hebrew of Hebrews. And then I'll show you something. Hebrew of Hebrews, the 8th day, circumcised the 8th day.
Philippians 3 and 5.
Let me just.
Circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is Philippians chapter 3 and verse 5. Circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, and Hebrew of the Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee.
A Pharisee. Now, this is what we have to understand. He said he's a Hebrew of the Hebrews, not a Hebrew of the Ishmaelites, not an Hebrew of the Edomites. Because the Edomite was once Hebrew. Ishmaelite was once Hebrew. Why?
That's where we came.
No.
Because they came from Abraham.
Because they came from Abraham.
That's right.
And you speak the language of your father, right?
That's right.
So, Ishmaelite, Hebrew. Okay? And then when you jump down to Jacob and Esau, Hebrew. Both brothers, both spoke Hebrew. There's one looked one way, one looked the other way. Or one looked normal and one didn't. So, but he says he is Hebrew of the Hebrew. Meaning there's no condition attached to his Hebrewism. See that? That's very important for you not to miss that. That's why when it speaks about being angry with Esau, they don't come into it because they're not Hebrew of Hebrew. Okay? They're Edomites. Right. Any other questions? Anyone else?
You also kill that with Hebrews 12:16.
Hebrews 12 and 16. Let's quickly go there.
16 and 17.
Hebrews 12 and 16.
Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears.
Exactly. And you'll also find it in 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 7.
Second Ezra chapter 6 and verse 7.
Yeah, stop at 9.
Then answered I and said, what shall be the partings asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born, of him Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
There it is.
Oh, praise God.
All right.
To follow up on your response. He said, because he's in trouble, because he has a lot of anger towards Esau.
He's in trouble because he has a lot of... Really? So...
Pressure make a wise man.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are all in trouble that way because but what we try to do is tamper down that spirit, because we will get our just rewards, or they will get their just rewards in the future. Hallelujah.
I can understand what he's meaning, because I know sometimes when I go out, I'll go out from being at home all day working, and I'll be around Esau. When you're getting out of your car, they all of a sudden have to go back and double check their cars and make sure the doors are locked. And then they'll stand and block you in the stores and things of that nature.
Yeah.
It feels so entitled.
Yeah. Ma'am, I go to Esau's homes on a daily basis. But I turn up my vocabulary. I turn it way up there. And I'm sorry?
It doesn't matter. They look at this.
Oh, yes, they do. But the reason why, I guess, for me, it helps a little bit, because the work that I do, they see me only one way. And they see, yes, of course you do that type of work. But then when they ask me a question and I articulate it, they always give me this look up and down as though something's different about him. But I like to always shut them down to make them realize that they are more an ignoramus than I am. And yes, you're speaking about the subliminal actions that they have. You walk into a lift, they clutch their purse. They walk into a lift, they go to the corner of the lift. I mean, you see it all. And look, man, me dark. So when they see me, believe it, they see me coming, and they have an attitude. But the reason why I no longer am offended, but I do call them out. If you hold your constable, I said, what's wrong with you? I asked them right there. It's like I was dealing with an Hispanic sister, and I had to kind of put her straight. And I put her straight this week. But people think that color says it all, but they don't know the scriptures. If they knew the scriptures, they'd behave themselves, because they're standing in the presence of the Most High's image.
I have a scripture for him, Pastor.
Good.
Psalms 37:7-8, it says, "Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him."
I like that one. Starting the game. Starting the game.
Psalms chapter 37, verse 7
Yeah.
through 8. It says, "Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way,
Right.
because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil."
Hallelujah.
That's good. And then there's Jake, who likes to put Esau at so much ease, like they'll like so Uncle Thomish, just to.
Yeah, well, after that sister that we met yesterday went into like a fit. Then when her man walked up, then we realized, I see why you are like that. Yeah, I see. Me no. I'm sorry. But you have to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you get quite vexed face when you're out there. This gentleman walks up to the officer, and he's going, "What are you reading?" Now you already know what we're reading. But I said, "Doc, you already know what we're reading." But it's, you got to keep up. I'm reading the scriptures. Oh, yes, I know you read scripture, but what chapter, what verse? Am I lying, Doctor?
No, sir.
And so, officer replies nonchalantly, Jeremiah chapter blah, 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 blah. And he went, oh. So he hovers around thinking we're going to have some conversation. He's gone off into his own world. I'm already looking up the road. I'm not going to be drawn into this because every week I'm always the one who's having conversations, you see. So he went into his own way. So it's like he zoned out. And so I'm looking at, because I know me, if I look at him, I'm going to start talking. So I look up the road. And then eventually he kind of meanders off a little. Well, he kind of moves to try and get into your focus. And then you've got to look at it. You see. But the thing is this, this is not for them. And it makes no difference. And see, oh, look, one week this person was hounding me, and in the end, he said, why won't you talk to me about the Bible? Because it's not for you. And ultimately, what's in it only means you're going to go into slavery and you're going to end up serving us. And when I said that, this was, oh! But sometimes, if you won't catch the hint, sometimes we're just going to be a little bit kind of just raw and just say it the way it is.
That's right.
But these brothers are teaching me, don't share it with everybody, don't waste your time. But anyway, that's all right. Yes, to all of those of you who tune into our broadcast, we want to thank you for continuing to support us. We thank you for those of you that are donating to our website, which is nmcc HebrewAcademy.com. Again, let me repeat, that's nmcc.HebrewAcademy.com. That's our website. You can go on that website. You can donate to the mission and what we're doing here in the Houston area. And again, for those of you that wish to come along to our services on the Sabbath, you can come along to the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel here on Bonavista. Is it Bonavista? I think it is Bonavista. Bonaventure Road here in Sugarland, and we will only be too glad to have you here, and we look forward to seeing you. And for Thursdays, if you would be so kind, you're welcome to come along to our conference Bible class, which is held on a Thursday at 7 o'clock. And again, you can have a code to go into that one. The code will be 902. In fact, it is the code is 902-0054. And the telephone number is 641-715-0632. Again, that is 641-715-0632. The access code, I shall repeat, 9200054. Again, shalom to you. Thank you for tuning in. And we look forward to speaking with you on next week. All right. Shalom.